Does becoming the world's most powerful person, President of the United States, mean that they are very good at managing their own personal finances? Is there a connection between achieving the ultimate job and managing one's personal wealth? Megan Gorman is the author of All the President's Money. She's a tax attorney, wealth manager. She joins us now. Megan, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Paul, I'm so happy to be here.
So you live in the world of wealth management. You deal with wealthy people, but you love history as well, which led to this project. Yeah. What led you to believe that there would be a connection between the most powerful person in the world, the president, and their handling of their money? And is there a connection?
You know, I found in looking at presidents' personal finances and sort of the national fiscal policy, there really isn't a correlation. But what it does tell you is it tells you a lot about their values and what's important to them. Right? And so for a lot of our presidents, learning to be able to climb in this country, the socioeconomic ladder was important to them. And you see that in some of the things that they did as presidents.
Now, I know everybody wants to ask you who was the best at this, who was the worst of this at handling their money, and we'll go there too for a bit. But first, does it matter whether a president comes from money? JFK, FDR, they came from money, as opposed to somebody like modest means like Abraham Lincoln.
You know what? It doesn't matter, right? Because money skills are things that we learn over the course of our lifetime. But the presidents that are the most exciting to look at with their money are the ones that really came from poorer backgrounds and sort of climbed in this country, right? Presidents like Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Ronald Reagan. And what's interesting about their stories is that over the course of their life, they learned certain skills. Ronald Reagan, for example, he had a father who struggled with alcoholism, but Reagan learned from his mother how to budget. And so Reagan became very much a strict budgeter, which caused a lot of friction in his marriage with Jane Wyman. But luckily for him, Nancy Reagan, she liked budgeting. You wouldn't think that when you look at them. They looked very wealthy, and they were very wealthy. But wealth comes from learning how to budget.
As a group, are the presidents the right group or a right group to study on wealth building and management? Because I'm sure a lot of people watching now are kind of saying, never thought about looking at that group. I would think people vote on personal charisma, characteristics, policies. Talk about this as the factor.
So when I was writing the book, I wanted to share what I see my clients do with money and how they have skills and traits that allow them to succeed. But you don't know my clients, right? We all know the presidents. But what was fascinating when I was writing the book is whether it was George Washington in the 1700s, Abraham Lincoln in the 1800s, or even Bill Clinton in the 1960s growing up, all of them dealt with the same money issues that we all deal with today. So money's this great humanizer, and what it tells you is everything stays the same over the course of U.S. history in terms of personal finance and the struggle and the anxiety that we all have with it.
All right, let's talk about the best and the worst. People want to hear about that. And some of these are surprising. Among the best, you point to Eisenhower.
Oh, Ike. Ike was so good with money, right? Ike was really good about managing emotion. Now, when Ike was a little boy, grew up poor in Abilene, Kansas, but Ike had met a young guy in town who used to take him hunting and fishing, and then they also went and learned to play poker together. And by learning how to play poker and managing risk and emotions, Ike took that practice throughout his whole life. And so you see that over the course of his life, he was able to build wealth, particularly at the end once he left the military, and he was very good with it.
And there's other names that Reagan you've already mentioned, but there's another president. And I asked people in the newsroom and some of the anchors, who do you think was the best with their money? Nobody comes up with the answer that you found because he tanked the country. Herbert Hoover, of all people.
Yes, and to be fair to Hoover, he didn't tank the country. Well, he just had the bad luck of being president then. Hoover was phenomenal with money. But Hoover also had to learn about money very, very early on. An orphan by age 9. He was in a Quaker community who taught him how to budget and to learn how to do bookkeeping. And then he learned things like how to, work hard, how to manage risk. And he had luck. And luck is something that does go into wealth building. But Hoover was also good with wealth because he understood it was about giving back. And Hoover was willing to share his wealth. So it's not just about how much money you have in the bank, it's what you do with it.
This was depressing. When I read among the worst that you point out, of all people, Thomas Jefferson, so many people respect what he invented and all of that. But when it came to money, he got put in a bad situation.
Yes, I mean, Jefferson, such a brilliant scholar, right, philosopher, writer, and yet couldn't manage money to save his life, right? But he struggled with something that a lot of us deal with, which is illiquidity, right? He owned plantations and slaves, and then he assumed debts for other family members. And he was never able to really get control of it because he wasn't good at things like budgeting, connecting with his future self. And by the end of his life, he almost lost Monticello because of it. So really crazy that someone that we revere was someone on the brink of losing his house.
I'm thinking a lot of viewers are watching and going, yeah, the presidents. It's probably their wives, is it?
You know what? Who you marry helps you a lot when it comes to your money. People like George Washington, Lyndon Johnson, right? All of them, and Barack Obama, because we're here in Chicago, all of them have done well with money because of the women they married. A lot of the women that they've married are either good with money or ground them with money, or if one of them's a spender, the other one helps them save. And so you see that in these marriages where they're really able to work together. And a great example is LBJ and Lady Bird when they bought the radio station. She bought it with her money from her inheritance, and they were able to manage it well together.
Out of time, give me one tip we can take from the presidents that people at home can say, I can try this.
Everybody's up at 2 in the morning, but just try to ground yourself with your financial anxiety and talk about it with others.
All right, good advice. Megan Gorman, congratulations on a great book. I really enjoyed it. You can find out more about Megan's book at allthepresidentsmoney.com. We'll be right back.